Hey, it's Admir from the Cleveland Crunch, and you're watching Crunchland.
Welcome to Crunchland, where the turf ignites. Cleveland's champs, we own the Knights. Kicking goals, we strike with flair. Indoor kings, none compare. Headers fly, the crowd's alive. Dribbling fast, we always thrive. From the penalty spot to the final whistle's call, Crunchland rocks, we got it all.
Welcome to Crunchland, the official podcast of the Cleveland Crunch. And here's your host, Chris Akin.
It is Crunchland, the official podcast of the Cleveland Crunch. I, of course, am your host, Chris Akin, but it is not about me. It is about the guys that are making it happen on the pitch. And here is one of those guys, had a great game the other day. The game itself maybe wasn't as great as we would have liked it to be, but he personally had a good game. He is Chris Cvecko. Chris, how are you, man?
I'm good. Doing well. How about you?
Good. It's good to speak to you, man. And it's a tough time to speak to you, I gotta admit. The last two, as a fan, have been disheartening. I imagine for you guys, for you players, it's times 100. So why don't we start there, man? What are you guys feeling? How do you plan to come out of this little dip?
Yeah. So like you said, it's been, tough past couple of weeks here, past 2 weeks, in particular. Dating back, I guess, looking back at the past, I don't know if we've gone a stretch where we've lost 2 games in a row. So this is definitely new to us, coming from the Crunch. But, I think there's a lot of things that you can take away from it. Obviously, it's a tough time. Guys are down a little bit, but we know that, every season is going to be a tough one. Going into each game, being the Crunch, we kind of have a target on our back. So home or away, we're always going to get every team's best. And, in the indoor game is also different. It's tough. It's kind of chaotic. So sometimes, it's trickier to get results. And, the past 2 weeks, we've been on the wrong side of that and dropped two games. But, with each season, again, you're going to have some adversity. Sometimes you don't want them to be in the form of losses, but in this case, that is the case, and that's what we have to deal with. So we got to kind of rebound, put together a couple good practices here. We got another game on Saturday, then a week off. So really looking to bounce back here. Again, take that, whatever you want to call it, that anger, that adversity, going into this next game, try to work on some things and come out with the win so we can get back on track here.
Right on. You've been here for the entire 6 years since the rebirth, and like you said, I do not believe there has been a 2-game losing streak in the history of the rebirth anyway. When you look at that, and it is kind of new territory for everybody, not just the new guys, but even you old timers that have been there a while now. How do you keep yourself, one, and the team in general from getting stuck in that low point and moving past it quickly? Right.
So I guess personally, just having been a competitor my whole life, playing sports my whole life, soccer my whole life, understanding that these things do happen at time to time. You're going to have ups and downs in your career. So it's just kind of being able to handle those in the best way possible. So, don't get too high on the highs, don't get too low on the lows, and understand that every now and then, be it, even injury or losses or things like that, things aren't always going to go your way. So just knowing that, it's a process, it's a journey, be it one season long or, 20 plus throughout your entire career. And just having that mentality that, you're always going to bounce back and putting your foot forward so that when these things do happen, you've been there, you're experienced, you've witnessed this, you know what it feels like, and you just try to prevent it going forward. And I guess, team wise, I think it's very similar. We have some younger guys on the team, but everybody's been playing soccer their whole lives. The older guys a little bit longer. And, I think each season's a little bit different, but when you go into each season, you have the final goal, or at least we do as a Crunch, based off our talent, based on the players we have. our goal is always to get into the playoffs and then ultimately win the championship. So that's what kind of keeps us going. So sure, we might drop a game or two in this case here, which we don't like to see, but we are kind of in the middle of the season. And, we have some games left to kind of build on and get that momentum back heading into playoffs. And again, our ultimate goal is still achievable, winning the championship. So just knowing that in the back of our minds, I think kind of, keeps us going, keeps us motivated to say, hey, there's some good teams here. Teams are going to be coming at us, giving us their best. And that'll push us a little bit harder in practice and going into these games to fine tune a little bit so we don't make those mistakes, and then ultimately going into playoffs will be, in our best position, best shape, and, come home with the championship. So just having that in mind always, I think, keeps us going.
Sure. Is it better if it's going to happen now, middle of the season, where you have time to get momentum again? Or, and I'll just tell you up front, I talked to Ryan yesterday, one of the owners, Ryan Ruiz, and his answer was what I would expect. We don't ever want to lose, including he would not give me that it's okay. But you as a player, I mean, you play the game, it's never perfect. Even if it is 10-0, it's never been perfect. There's still things on the floor or on the pitch that you wish you would have done better. Is it better that it happens now where you guys have time to create a new wave to ride into the playoffs?
Definitely. I think you'd rather, like you said, you never like to lose regardless, even on, if you play a bad game, shots aren't going your way. You'd always like to say you found a way to win. But this is indoor. A lot happens in the indoor game. So, and, unfortunately we've been on the wrong side of that these past 2 games. So definitely I would say it's, if it could come at a better time, would be, earlier to middle of the season so that you can kind of have some momentum going into playoffs. Like I said, I think we got 4 games left here, the regular season. So if we can generate a couple of wins here, work on some things, work on defensive things, work on set pieces, things like that, I think having a winning momentum, a lot of positivity going into playoffs is definitely where you want to be at. So I would say, yeah, definitely you'd rather it happen now than later on, like last game of the season. It would be tough going into the playoffs coming off a loss. But again, we have experienced guys with the right mindset, and we always, are able to come together, talk to one another. And, we still, like I said, were it to be the last game. Hopefully it's not. And we do make the playoffs. We still know that our goal is right there in front of us. But sure, it's okay. It happened now. We just kind of got to deal with it and then string together some wins going to the playoffs, and I think we'll be all right.
Right on, man. Well, Chris, let's talk about you for a minute. Let's get off that topic. Let's get to something a little more fun. I want to talk about you as a player specifically. Following the team, there's a lot of personalities on this team, whether it's McCain doing the backflips or, Admir doing everything, or Musa, etc. There's a lot of personalities on the team. You've been there 6 years, but you're kind of like the quiet guy. You're not the guy that gets like a ton of the attention and whatnot. You just go out and play a solid game. Are you happy with that, or do you wish that you were more flamboyant, or would that hurt your game even?
I mean, sure, yeah. I guess overall, my ultimate goal is always just to win. So however that comes to be, whatever my role in that is, I'm happy to do it. Sure, it'd be nice to, punch in a few more goals, get on the stat lines or what have you, which is always nice. But, wherever I can contribute, I'm happy to do that as long as ultimately the goal is that we're winning. So if there's times where maybe I need to step up and provide more of an attacking presence, I try to do that or get forward. If it's one of those games where, maybe they have a little bit more possession or we're taking some heat, a lot of shots, and I have to stay back just to prevent counterattacks or to maybe mark some of their stronger attacking players, I'm happy to do that. And like you said, it might not be the best statistically, but I think it's doing stuff like that you need on every team. And I'm happy to do that again, so long as everybody's kind of doing their part and ultimately getting the win. So, it's nice to go forward though every now and then, punch in some goals. But like I said, I'm happy to do whatever the team needs me to do to win. And I think we kind of have the right pieces on all aspects. So knowing each player's strengths and weaknesses kind of helps me, adapt and adjust each game based off of that. Because like I said, a bunch of us have kind of been playing together for a while. So I know how these guys play, their style, some of their strengths. So maybe, there's certain circumstances where it's best for me to stay back or, prevent certain things rather than going forward. So I'm happy to do that.
Sure. Now, Chris, let me ask you this: as a Cleveland guy, as a local guy, as well as a 6 years with the team, you're aware of the history. You know the force and the crunch from the old days and whatnot. What is your vibe bringing it back? I mean, how do you feel as a participant bringing back soccer to a prominent place here in Cleveland?
Yeah. So, I'm not from Cleveland originally,
Okay.
so I didn't grow up. I know some of the guys on our team knew about them growing up a little bit, but coming to Cleveland and when they started this revamp, I did hear about the past and all the success they had and how cool it was for them downtown and all of that. So, I guess the past 6 years, initially getting those phone calls have been pretty cool. Just about they're starting a new indoor team. Before that, some of the guys were still together playing outdoor, but transitioning to the winter and playing some indoor was going to be a little bit new to us, more structured and organized league. Kind of the steps that they've taken to get to where we are now through, the organization and through the players, it's been really cool to see that progression. From practicing at Sportsplex and playing there to now playing downtown at Wolstein. It's pretty cool the transition that we've gone through. And I think it starts at the top down. Everybody's contributed, including our guys. I mean, everybody's been very committed and dedicated to this process. As you can see, we got, some older guys now too. Still wanting to play, still wanting to compete at a high level. And, we take it serious and we hope to instill those values, that atmosphere to the younger players so that going forward, this is something that can continue on down the road, and continue to progress. So I think it's been really cool. It's been a lot of fun. And as a player, it's just been cool to continue to play, like I said, in like that competitive atmosphere, playing for a trophy every year, be at whatever level. Not a lot of people can say that they can do that or that they're a part of that. So I've enjoyed every moment of it. And, hopefully this one ends with us on top. So that would be nice.
Right on. Well, Chris, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but you are considered one of the more legendary or renowned guys from Case. When you played, you won a lot of awards. There's always that athlete of the decade conversation that has come up with you. Talk a little bit about your time at Case and what you brought from playing there, which obviously is different than what you're doing now. What did you bring from there to the indoor game that has helped you the most?
Yeah. So playing at Case was awesome for me. I came in as a freshman and, worked my way into a starting position early on and had a, great career there, was able to play all 4 years, start a bunch of games. And like you mentioned, my senior year had a lot of success individually and collectively as a team. So great coaching, great players there, still, friends to this day. So my overall experience at Case was really cool, a lot of fun. And I think, my progression as a player really, really improved throughout those 4 years. And then, and that's outdoor. And then leading into that, I ended up getting into some NPSL semi-professional stuff here in Cleveland. And that's kind of how I met most of these Cleveland-based guys that have been here for so long. And then we did that for, 5 or so years. And we had a lot of success there. I mean, I can't remember many seasons where we lost too many games. We were always fighting for a championship, similar to how we are now in the indoor game, also in the outdoor game with, 100 or so plus teams. So very, very tricky stuff to do on a year-to-year basis. But, we were able to have that success and we had a lot of consistency in our players. A lot of those guys still around today. So honestly, then just transitioning into the indoor game. Outdoor to indoors is a lot different. Indoors a lot more hockey style and things like that, and you have to learn how to play it. But in the end of the day, it's still soccer. So you got to put the ball in the back of the net. You got to defend. You got to possess. You got to move the ball, connect passes, things like that. So, and I think having that relationship with those guys that for so long has made that transition a little bit easier. Because, like I said, we know a lot of strengths and weaknesses. So a lot of that does, take over into the indoor game, even though it's a little bit smaller sided. But I think, as a whole, we've done a good job doing that. We've had, great coaches along the way, including Antonio now, that, have played indoor at a high level. So they know, different tips and tricks that we might not know of or not as accustomed to or routinely do. So working on those things in practice, trying to drill those things in so that, come game time, you see those little things that indoor players might do more than outdoor players just because of the circumstances. I think a lot of those things have started to develop and improve along the way, and I think it's only helped us get a little bit better. And yeah, just trying to drill in those things, and hopefully we can continue to do that for these last couple of weeks.
Sure. Now, what is the hardest thing when you transition from outdoor to indoor? Is it the speed? Is it learning the walls? Learning how the ball comes off the walls? I mean, what is it that when you make that transition? I know it's not just, well, it's still green and we play. What is the hardest transition, or what did you find to be the hardest for you as you transitioned into the indoor game?
Yeah, that's a tough one because there's a lot of different things. I guess, I mean, just watching the games, you can obviously see that the half the amount of players, the field's a lot smaller. So I guess personally, in outdoor, I thrived a lot on space and running. That was one thing I always do. I had a good fitness, had an engine, could always get up and down the field. It's a 90-minute game. You really don't sub as much as you do in indoor. There's not like shifts like indoor has. Mm-hmm. So, you really see players start to get fatigued, especially towards the end of the games. So for me personally, just, having that condense a little bit, there's not as much free space for me to run into. It's a lot more balls into feet. But then as we developed, a lot of balls off the wall, things like that, and getting into different areas. But so that's been a big change for me because one thing that I was particularly got more involved in was crossing. So getting down the sideline, providing crosses, whereas indoor, there's not as much of that, or it's a little bit different in the way you do it. You either hit the board or you find a target in the corner, things like that. You don't see too many overlapping runs down the right side, whipping in balls or things like that. So that's probably the biggest thing that's a little bit different. And then, things like counterattack. So defensively, say you take a shot and it bounces off the wall. Sometimes that ball bounces all the way to midfield, right. And the other team has two guys up top and they can counter very easily. Whereas in outdoor, you don't have boards or walls or anything like that. So shots can't ricochet in the way that they do. So it's, you have to be thinking a lot. As a soccer player, you're always thinking and taking these things into account. So just kind of reading the game, anticipating outcomes, where balls might bounce, where players might go. Because, one wrong move or one wrong step, especially in indoor, because it's a lot smaller and confined, you can get out of position really quick. So that's probably the biggest difference for me. But along with all the other things, a lot more goals, sure. 5 players on the field. But that's probably the biggest thing that's affected me personally, or that I've had to adjust to.
Sure. Is it difficult now that you've adjusted to the indoor game? Is it difficult to flip the script and go play outdoor?
I mean, it's not. I mean, it's still soccer end of the day, like I said. So a lot carries over, but sure, you start to build these habits of positioning and different runs. And, say we work it in the back, we call it like a weave type of run. You wouldn't really run something like that in outdoor. So things, being a player, I mean, you would be able to pick up on it in a second, but you would definitely take a second take every now and then, certain things, just because you're not used to it. But a lot of our guys still play indoor and outdoor pretty regularly, so it kind of overlaps enough to the fact that, it doesn't affect us. It's not like I'm not going to know what to do when I get out there, but certainly the way in which you approach it is a little bit different, I would say.
Right, definitely. Well, obviously, Chris, this weekend, Pittsburgh is going to run into a buzzsaw. I just have that feeling that you guys are going to score 35 goals or something, because it just seems like they're going to be the unfortunate victims of you guys' couple of weeks of anger and aggression. Talk a little bit about where we are as a team and how you feel from practice and whatnot, how you feel it's going to look as we move forward into this game on Saturday against Pittsburgh.
Yeah. I hope that's true. I can't say anything for sure, but yeah, definitely. I mean, we've connected as a team. Everybody knows the situation. Nobody's blind to it right now. So we've discussed what's happened the past couple of weeks leading into this. We've had some conversations just trying to get our heads right and understand kind of where we're at and what we need to do. And again, that ultimate goal is still in front of us. So we need to kind of take that adversity, deal with it, fix a few things, and then, go into this weekend strong. So I think that's just kind of the message, is that, like I mentioned, every team's going to be gunning for us. We have a target on our back. And we want that. We expect that. We expect every team's best. So how can we deal with that? And, these two losses, again, that kind of only, strengthens us a little bit, I think, because it'll let us know that message a little bit clearer. So we're going to have to take each game and approach it as if it is, do or die or a finals. So hopefully, based off what I've been seeing, we have practice tonight. Again, it should be a good, clean practice. We'll clean some things up. Everybody's mindset's, set on the ultimate goal. And right now the next goal is just to win the next game. So I think everybody's heads are right. We're all, united and ready to come together to put together a performance that looks more like the Crunch. And hopefully that includes, letting in less goals, because that's usually a thing that we don't do or do well. And then, on the other end, scoring a bunch of goals. So hopefully putting those two things together should put together a performance. And then just the overall effort, the emotion that goes with that, I think will help us, build on that going into the end of the season.
Sure. Now, as one of the veterans on the team, what do you say to the young guys, to the new guys, the 1 and 2 year guys that have not seen this in Cleveland? What do you say to them to make sure that they don't get, down or whatnot, that they keep their energy at 100%?
I think a lot of it's kind of leading by example. Is from what I can see. I mean, a lot of our guys, even the older guys, that have been there for a while, you can see it in practice, in games, just kind of the emotion that we put into it, whether it be in like our, pregame talks or speeches, what have you, different guys saying what they need to be said, just showing how much we care about this. And I think when you hear that and you hear it in their voice and see it in their eyes, I really think that, lets them know that this is something that we take seriously, and that message is translated to them. And then also just in the way that we play. So not taking things off in practice and in the game. So even doing the little things, be it, having to slide or something like that, or sprint back on defense when you maybe could have jogged back, kind of just doing all the little things hard and putting in that effort. I think other players, younger guys, seeing that, they're not too good to do this, or that they have been no shortcuts, things like that. I think that really sends the message to them that, hey, I got to give it my all regardless of the situation. If I make a mistake, I got to win it back. If I do this, and then when we're always, positivity is one thing we've been trying to work on, and really trying to get, if you do make a mistake, that happens. It's soccer, make up for the mistake. Don't get lazy, get back. As long as you're giving, 100% effort, that's something that we can build on. And if you make a mistake doing something like that, just, you'll get it back. It'll be okay. So I think we've, as a team, really worked on that, and it's helped us kind of to where we are.
Right. Let me flip it the other way just for a second. How do you feel about Coach being on the pitch? I've asked this to a couple players. I've gotten a couple different answers. Some like it. Some are nervous. it seems like it hits everybody a little bit differently. What do you think about it? And do you feel any extra pressure at all when you're on the pitch and he's on the pitch, that he's, to make sure you're in the right place and to make sure you make the right pass or the right defense or whatnot, because the coach is on the field?
Right. Yeah, no, I think, there's different ways to look at it, but end of the day, I've known Antonio and a lot of the players have known him for a while, and he's played with us in the past. So he's one of those guys that if he weren't coaching, he'd be playing. So we do have that experience with him, and we know how he plays. He knows how we play. I think as long as we're getting results, even though we haven't the past 2 weeks, but as long as he's, putting in his performance, working hard, doing the things that we expect out of the other players, and he's displaying that as well, that's something that I think I'm okay with. Again, if we're short, I think this past weekend we might have been a little bit short on numbers as well, traveling far away. So it's a position where, he maybe had to step into that role, even though he might not have wanted to. And at the time, you always need legs and substitutes in these games because it's a long game. So having that option, I think, has been helpful. But coming from him, I think, and he knows it can be difficult to do both things at the same time, because that's why there's, at the professional level, that's why there's one or the other, because, if you're on the field, you're not seeing things from that perspective. And in stoppages and things like that, you might be a little bit gassed or out of breath just because you were just on the field. But that's why we have a lot of different leadership on our team and guys stepping in and saying, things where they think need to be said. And we've had that all season. It's not just, sure, it always starts with the coach or ends with the coach, but guys that have been there always have a say and, are looked to for information or feedback when it's needed. But, overall, I think we're one team, coach if he plays, if he doesn't. Sure, if it's nice for him to just coach if we have the players, but when we're short staffed and things like that, he has the experience. It's okay to bring him in, I think, as long as he's performing to the level that we're performing at. If we have everybody and we're ready to go and fully equipped, I think he can just focus on his coaching roles, and that would be great. And but that just really hasn't been the case lately. So yeah, that's kind of my position on that, I would say.
Right on. Well, Chris, obviously it's been a tough time, but this weekend is the time that we're going to get out of this tough time. We're going to get a win in Pittsburgh. I'll say it, you don't have to, but everybody should get out there. Make sure you go to theclevelandcrunch.com, get yourself some tickets, or just come out. Just come out to the game. It's going to be a fun time. It's Veterans and First Responders Night as well, which that's going to be fantastic. So make sure you get out there, and you'll see this guy, number 8 on the pitch, just tearing it up, I'm sure. So Chris, do well, and we'll see you then.
All righty. Yep. Thanks for having me.
Crunchland rocks, we got it all. 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 Crunchland rocks, we've got it all. Crunchland rocks, we've got it all. Welcome to Crunchland, where the turf ignites. Cleveland's champs, we own the nights.